Hello, I'm pleased to welcome you to the Adult Creative Writing Contest Awards Day ceremony. My name is Dorothy Miner, and I have the distinct privilege and honor of serving as president of the Friends of the Tulsa City County Libraries. I'd like to recognize Cindy McDonald, who has been the chair of the Adult Creative Writing Contest Committee, and her committee members, Mindy Galoo, Laurie Green, Diane Morrow-Condos, April Schweikart, and Karen Smith for all their hard work and commitment. We'd also like to thank Jennifer Latham for being our speaker today. As you know, the pandemic has challenged us in ways we never thought possible. These committee members have met the challenge and promoted the Adult Creative Writing Contest and worked to develop a terrific program to celebrate those who entered the contest, and especially the winners today. We're extending congratulations to all of you. Once again, welcome. And I will remind you too, the program is being recorded so that you can see it or send it to friends later. It will be on the library's YouTube channel. Now, I'd like to turn the program over to our host, April Schweikart. Thank you.
Thank you, Dorothy. Well, it's my immense honor to introduce our speaker for this year's ceremony, Jennifer Latham. Jennifer describes herself as an Army brat, having lived in many places, including New York City, San Francisco, Augusta, Georgia, Buffalo, New York, Philadelphia, Providence, and Madrid. In addition to writing, she has had many other jobs, including school psychologist and yoga teacher. She lives in Tulsa, which she considers home, with her 2 daughters. Jennifer is the author of 2 books, Scarlet Undercover and Dreamland Burning, a book that links the past and present with the Tulsa Race Massacre. Scarlet Undercover was selected as a Circus Best Young Adult Book of 2015 and also Junior Library Guild selection. Dreamland Burning was selected as the YALSA Quick Pick for Reluctant Readers and the Chicago Library Best Book of the Year, and it was also nominated for the Sequoia Book Award. Jennifer says that Dreamland Burning has opened the door for her to visit with students and schools throughout the country to talk about the Tulsa Race Massacre and also about writing. And now giving an address to us titled Between Us Writers, please welcome Jennifer Latham.
Thank you, April, for that lovely introduction. And thank you to Cindy McDonald, Tara Farrar, Dorothy Miner, and all the other wonderful people at the Tulsa City County Library who make this annual writing contest possible. I also want to thank this year's judges who've given so generously of their time and expertise to support Oklahoma artists. And speaking of artists, to every writer who submitted their work to this year's writing contest, who stared down a blank computer screen or a muted computer screen, or a notebook page, or a legal pad, or even a cocktail napkin, then decided to fill that empty space with words from their heads and hearts, congratulations. It's no easy thing to go from, yeah, I think I'll write something, to, hell yeah, I wrote that and I'm going to submit it to a writing contest. Doing that takes commitment and determination and courage. So congratulations to all of this year's entrants. Bravo, well done. Now, I'll be honest with you, I have not had a chance to read all of the submissions that came in this year, but I did get copies of the winning entries. And let me just say that if you haven't had a chance to sit down with a cup of coffee on a bright spring morning to read them, you're missing out. Each one is heartfelt and thoughtful and lovely, from a chance encounter to a bar, to a visit from an unexpected winged friend, to a bone-deep glimpse of grief, and even a bit of Netflix-inspired baking catharsis. Each piece highlights the unique voice of its writer. Each one moved me. And like all good writing, our winner's words stayed with me long after I'd put my coffee cup in the dishwasher and gone about my day. After all, isn't that why we read? To be entertained, certainly, but also to widen our view of the world, to challenge ourselves, to mull. So that's what I did. I mulled. And late that afternoon, as I took my monstrous little beast of a writing partner for a walk around the neighborhood, yes, that's a dog, not a child, it struck me that even though my readings that morning had covered multiple genres and subjects and styles, there were also strikingly similar threads running through all of them, binding them together. Threads, I'm not sure would have been as vivid and distinct if they'd written before last May. You know, back when we were heading into a challenging year. So what were those threads? To put it succinctly, they were candor, creativity, and connection. Okay, so I'm going to tug on those strings a little bit and explain what I mean. And I'm going to talk about the last one first, because honestly, I just like the way they sounded together in the order I said them first: candor, creativity, and connection. I'm even going to change one of those words to simplify it, because alliteration is a good trick that gets old really fast. So let's start with the longest thread first. We'll call it the queen mother of COVID cravings, the thing that made us leave sanitized mason jars full of homemade sourdough starter on our neighbors' front porches, and put on nice shirts over pajama bottoms, and open Zoom and FaceTime and Teams and Skype and whatever other digital platform we used to keep in touch with so many people, colleagues and teachers, children, parents, grandparents, great Aunt Millie. I'm talking about connection. It's such a simple and fundamental thing, this need we have to share a meal with friends, to hug the people we love, to sit beside a stranger in a movie theater and laugh at the same silly scenes and cry over the same sad ones. To, and let's get really crazy here, have an actual conversation in a public place without wearing a mask or talking to the other person through a sheet of plexiglass. We missed that sense of connection in 2020. We mourned it and we craved it. Honestly, though, connection is what writers strive to create for their readers all the time. We imagine ourselves into the lives of others so that our readers can do the same. And if we fail, if our readers don't connect with the subjects of our essay, or our characters, or the challenges our characters face and the circumstances they find themselves in, then we've failed. Because that missed connection means that our reader won't keep reading. It means they won't care. That was not a problem for our winners here today. Not only did I care about their characters and the subjects they grappled with, I could feel the longing for connection in their words. In The Truth Is, this year's first place poem, this meant mourning loss and acknowledging the paralyzing fear that comes with thinking about the ultimate disconnect, death. In the winning essay, Aggression Cookies, it meant finding roots in the pages of an old family cookbook. And in both the children's literature and the adult short story winner, Sir Longtail and the Caddo County Cowboy and Tuesday at the Apocalypse, respectively, it meant stepping into the shoes of characters willing to open themselves to the possibility, the necessity even, of forging new friendships, new connections in the most unlikely of circumstances. And oh my goodness, was it fun to see how creatively these writers accomplished this. We're moving into my second C now. Alliteration game is still going strong. So creativity, let's talk about that. It's a tough one. And in this past year, I've struggled a lot to carve out the creative headspace it takes to really immerse myself in my writing. Partly this has been because it's hard to think straight when everyone in the house is home all the time. But also, it's because a huge portion of my brain has been busy worrying about the health and happiness of my kids, my husband, my country, myself. I've spent time washing groceries and tossed and turned at night worrying about elderly relatives living too far away for me to take care of. I've gotten some work done, sure, but reading these winning pieces and knowing how many other writers are out there in my community overcoming challenges in their own lives to write has been an inspiration. Creativity, it takes work, y'all. And channeling that creativity into something worthwhile doesn't happen unless you have something Charles Portis's character, Maddie Ross, one of my personal favorites, had in spades. You have to have true grit. And that brings us to the third thread woven so vividly and elegantly through this year's winners, candor. Or, because I did promise to ditch my little penchant for alliteration, let's simplify that down from a $2 word and just call it what it is, truth. Each of the writers here today created a work of art that's true to who they are and reflects a willingness to be vulnerable. It is really hard to put your heart into something, then send it out into the world alone. It's like dropping your kindergarten off on the first day of school, then waiting for people to rate them on a scale of 1 to 5 stars hard. Being a writer means letting people judge your work and by default, judge you. It means knowing that some readers might misunderstand your words or take them the wrong way or just plain old not like them. It means being brave. But I have a feeling that the writers among us today will tell you that they don't write because they want to. They write because they need to. Because even though they go about their lives looking like normal people, they have characters living inside their heads, demanding to be set loose on a page. Or because they're the kind of person that gets so wrapped up trying to describe the exact shade of green the Oklahoma sky turns ahead of a tornado that they forget to go to the basement. Writing is a compulsion, a thing that won't stand being put in the corner. Nobody puts writing in a corner. It takes dedication and hard work, inspiration, perspiration, and a really thick hide. That's why it's so important to stop now and again, just like we're doing today, to recognize writers for their outstanding work and to thank them for using their creative gifts to help us all reconnect with deep truths and ultimately with each other. So join me, please, everyone who's here, in celebrating these talented and generous writers. Congratulations. Well done. Bravo.
Thank you so much, Jennifer, for that very inspiring keynote address. That was just wonderful. Thank you. We will now be moving on to the section of our ceremony for announcing our winners. And I'll be announcing the winners of each category, followed by a short reading from each of our first place winners. The order of the categories will be presented in random order. And I'd also like for everyone to encourage everyone to enter your notes of congratulations to our winners in the chat if you would like. So we'll be starting with the poetry category. The winners of the poetry category are first place, Hannah Aljabori, The Truth Is. Second place, Thomas J. Taylor, Time's Arrow. Honorable mention, Kathy Bankston, 3 Men I Didn't Marry. Honorable mention, Jen Burke, The Lawn. Honorable mention, Tama Van Horn, The Homeless Are Not Eagles. And now Hannah Aljabori will share her winning poem, The Truth Is.
Hello, everyone. This is The Truth Is. Every time I write, I want to write about Tyler. Even the poems that are not about him are about him. I backspace, delete his name, sometimes end up sharing something else with the world, but he's still there. In the white space, hidden behind every letter. The truth is, I am terrified of death. Don't know the first thing about not being. The truth is, I'd like to start preparing myself for worst case scenarios, some sort of plan for how to cope. I won't say I'd like to know how to fill the spaces when their absence comes, because nothing ever fills it, remember? The truth is, I have to tear down my own walls before they get too tall to climb over, or I lose the keys by hiding them from myself. I have to tell you what I'm really feeling, and it's that I want to protect myself, and I want to protect everyone I love, but I can't do that. The truth is, I don't know how to end this poem, because I always search for a silver lining, some sort of glimmer to hold on to. But sometimes the silver turns to a dull gray, and sometimes the glitter just looks like rust and dirt. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hannah. And again, congratulations to all of our poetry winners. I'll now be moving to the winners of our short story category. The winners in the short story category are first place, Sarah Blomfield, Tuesday at the Apocalypse. Second place, Molly Hopkins, Tatterdemalion. Honorable mention, Jamie Reinhart, Beaumont's Thief. Honorable mention, Jennifer Sneed, Pickle Loaf and Other Gifts. And honorable mention, Haley Baker, Macula. And now, Sarah Blomfield will share some of her winning story, Tuesday at the Apocalypse.
Good afternoon, everybody. A little bit of background before I get into this. Tuesday at the Apocalypse is set in a church that has been converted into a bar. Twyla is the bartender, and she had a patron come in, a young lady who doesn't seem like she belongs there. And as a bartender, sometimes you think, I have to be a therapist, and she thinks she's going to need to be a therapist for this young girl. So now, a reading from Tuesday at the Apocalypse. Twyla was silent for a moment. This young girl, for even though she was only a couple of years younger than Twyla, she seemed a generation apart, was so full of hope. Was she delusional or for real? The cash was certainly enough to get her there, but where would she stay? Did she really have a job? Would she be safe? And how could she possibly run away from her entire life, family, church, just for the hope of this weird forgiveness for some unnameable sin? Sal rubbed her forehead. Is this what drunk feels like? Like a giant Q-tip in your head? That's certainly one way to put it, Twyla noted wryly. More water, girl. There was silence for a minute as Sal sipped her water. I think I shouldn't have come. Twyla felt like she was supposed to disagree, but she couldn't. Maybe. Why did you come? Sal kept rubbing her forehead, and Twyla wondered if the woman was going to pass out. Come on, honey, more water. Sal sighed and sat up. Okay. She reached for the glass, took a sip, exhaled hard, her cheeks puffing out. I guess I just want to make sure that I know what life is like. Real life, you know, not just life in a church or a school or a small town. Have you ever thought about that? About whether you know what real life is like? I mean, I know you work in a bar, but do you feel like you've lived? Do you ever wonder if you can really relate to anyone? I mean, I thought I had a clue, I really did. I thought I understood good and bad and that there are gray areas, and I thought I knew what family meant. I thought and I thought and I thought, but I don't actually know. And I want to know. I want to be able to understand for real so I can help people. Do you think you have to sin to be able to help people? I almost think you do. I think you have to be able to understand for real what they've gone through, and I'm scared of that. I don't understand why I have to break his word in order to help people keep it. I'm scared of that too. Sometimes think that the devil is the one who is really behind all this, that he wants me to do all these bad things so that he can keep me in his grip and maybe I can't make it back. But then I remember forgiveness. Do you know forgiveness? Her tiny voice trailed off as she took another drink of water, and Twyla found herself speechless. She didn't know the answers to any of those questions, and to be honest, she'd never really considered them. Wasn't the bartender supposed to be the therapist? She didn't really want the job, but it was better than being on the flip side of the coin. Do you? Twyla looked up and found herself staring into Sal's deep brown eyes. I don't know? Sal nodded wearily. I don't either. Not yet, but I'm going to. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. And again, congratulations to all of our short story winners. I will now announce the winners for the informal essay category. The winners in the informal essay category are Jessica Brent, Aggression Cookies, Pam Sanders, A COVID Tale, Caitlin Isley, The Brown Shoes, for honorable mention, Harry Blumenthal, Finding Joe Finch, and honorable mention, Karen L. Keeley, A World Crying Out for Repair. And now Jessica Brent will share her winning essay, Aggression Cookies.
Thank you. This is an excerpt from the first part of the essay, Aggression Cookies. This is my grandmother's cookbook, handed down to me. It's a comb-bound church fundraiser collection of our favorite recipes by the United Methodist Women of Alton, Kansas, circa 1980. The cover features a truly unappetizing spread of whole fish, bone-in slabs of meat, and a silver platter of ground beef dotted with mushrooms. Home from harvest a few years ago, my dad presented me with a few of my late grandmother's things: a modest jewelry box, an unfinished friendship quilt, and this cookbook. While I appreciated the sentimentality of our favorite recipes, I was admittedly put off by the recipes within. I recalled the holiday meals and memorial services of my childhood, the buttered sandwich bread and strange salads, shredded carrots suspended in green Jell-O molds. I thumbed through the salad section of the cookbook and confirmed the United Methodist of Women of Alton, Kansas defined salad as something held together with Cool Whip or Jell-O, or sometimes both. To my mind, Jell-O is reserved for one distinct and desperate purpose: food for the fasting. This is my mother's kidney disease, handed down to me. On the eve of my kidney transplant, I dine with my parents, fasting in a pre-op quarantine. My mom serves steak for herself and my father, but she does not neglect my place setting: apple juice in tulip wine glass, broth in a black china bowl, green single serving Jell-O with a silver spoon. Once released from the hospital, I returned to my parents' home for a recovery period. My mother nurses me on a diet of meticulously washed vegetables and public broadcasting. She feeds me reruns of the Great British Baking Show, and I sit awake long into the night, sleepless from steroids, binging. In my physically and emotionally fragile state, I find comfort in the monotony of the baking show. The beauty of the show is that there's no drama beyond deflated sponges and biscuits dropped. There's no real tension between bakers, no jealousy, no romance, no scandals unfolding outside the tent. The bakers cheer each other on. Judges Paul Hollywood and Mary Berry are blunt but gentle in their critiques. The harshest criticism: you didn't pull it off. It's a shame. The highest praise: it's a good bake. Well done. For months post-op, even after I'm home, I return to the tent in the late restless hours, letting soft British accents and the whir of stand mixers lull me to sleep. The bakers induce a hunger in me, not for eating, but for baking. My fingers itch to knead dough into bread, to produce something delicate and delightful, to cut into a crusty loaf and press my fingertips into the spongy center, testing for doneness. In the daylight hours, I scroll through recipes online, but I'm bored by blog posts and magazine recipes. The British bakers are presented with challenges that ground them in geography, culture, and history. Chelsea buns, Yorkshire puddings, Charlotte Royale. They bring to the tent regional and family recipes. I long for a bake, a signature bake, that might serve as a thread through time and place. I want a recipe to work like a spell, a recipe I can set on the kitchen counter and touch, and that when I touch it, I might reach through the pages and draw out ghosts of the past. I want a recipe that tells me something. I need a bake that says something. That's when I remember the United Methodist Women of Alton, Kansas. Thank you. Here's the cookbook. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Thanks for having the visual there for us too. I could picture it as you were describing it. And congratulations again to all of our winners for the informal short essay category. I will now announce the winners for our final category, the children's fiction category. The winners in the children's fiction category are: first place, Stephen P. Gray, Sir Longtail and the Caddo County Cowboy. Second place, Heather Elliott, Deeds, the Cross-Eyed Christmas Dog. Honorable mention, Susie Scarpitti, Never Come to an End. An honorable mention, Charlotte Glaze, Superhero Sister. And now Stephen P. Gray will share from his winning children's story, Sir Longtail and the Caddo County Cowboy.
My name's Stephen Gray. I have been a writer for most of my life, but I've only started publishing lately in the last several years. The story of Sir Longtail and the Caddo County Cowboy started when I tried to keep my young daughters entertained when we were traveling on trips and we would see scissortails driving around the state of Oklahoma or Kansas or Texas. And so we'd make up stories to entertain them. A couple of years ago, I had the privilege of meeting a cattle rancher down in southwestern Oklahoma who is the real inspiration for the Caddo County Cowboy. Lucy Maud Montgomery, who wrote the famous books of Anne of Green Gables, said, "Write what you know because you write with authenticity, and write what you love because the love of your story and your characters will come through." Having been a student of honors English all through the Tulsa public school years when I was in high school, I remember my late teacher, Martha Cole, once saying that a good writer is a person who understands that if a person gives you the most precious asset of your life, i.e. your free time, make the story interesting. So with that in mind, I tried to merge two aspects of my life experiences into a short story. And I'm just going to read just a glimpse of the Caddo County Cowboy and Sir Longtail. Virgil shared a most curious incident that had occurred one summer afternoon when he was working his cattle. At around noon, he had ridden his horse into some shade so he could take a break and get a swig of water from his canteen. He dismounted and drank some of the cool water, then poured more of it onto his head and neck. He assured me that that was a great way to cool down on a hot afternoon. While he was resting and cooling off, he heard a voice say, "It is a hot day." Virgil turned around but didn't see anyone, so he shrugged it off as heat exhaustion. But then he heard it again. "Must be close to 90 degrees in the shade. Say, you wouldn't mind sharing some of your water with a thirsty traveler, would you?" Virgil spun around looking for the voice, but there was no one standing anywhere within earshot. "I'm up here if you're wondering who's speaking." At that, Virgil looked up and saw Scissortail perched on a limb above him. "Yes, it's me," the bird tweeted. Virgil squinted. "You talk?" was all he could say. "Well, obviously," the Scissortail replied. "Now say, you wouldn't mind sharing some of your water with a weary pilgrim. It's a long flight from Central America. You know, that's where we Scissortails are from in the winter." Virgil was too shocked to reply. All he could do was pour some water in the canteen cup and offer it to the bird. "Just kindly put that cup of water up there on the tree limb," the bird said, "and I'll fly down to it from the branch to drink. No offense, but I don't know you right well, and these days you can't be too careful, you know, stranger danger and all." Virgil, somewhat stupefied, complied and then stepped away from the branch where he'd placed the canteen cup full of water. He didn't want to spook his new acquaintance by getting too close. "Much obliged," the Scissortail said as he flitted down to the branch and began drinking some of the water. "Ah, nice to slake your thirst on a really hot day." Virgil was stunned. All he could say was, "You got that right." "Thank you kindly for the water," the bird said. "My name is Sir John Longtail. What is yours?" "Virgil Mackinson," my friend blurted out. "Nice to meet you, Mr. Mackinson. May I call you Virgil?" "Please do," Virgil replied. He didn't feel like he could refuse such a genteel request. "Well, thanks, Virgil, for your hospitality and for the water. See you around." And at that, Sir John Longtail flew off. I think that's all I'll read at this point. There's just too much to the story, but thank you for the award, and I feel very honored as a longtime Tulsa resident to receive it.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much, Stephen. And I would like to now invite all of our first place winners to turn back on their cameras one last time so that all of the participants here can recognize you all in the chats for your achievements. So you all just want to turn on your camera here. And again, so congratulations to Hannah, Sarah, Jessica, and Stephen, and all of our 2021 winners. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Also, the list of all of our winners, along with their winning entries, will be posted on the TCCL website at tulsalibrary.org in a few days. So although we weren't able to listen to all of the entries today, you all can go to the website shortly and find the winning entries online. Also, the archive of this recording will be posted later on the TCCL YouTube channel. So you can also go back there to rewatch or send to other people who were not able to attend today. And to wrap up this ceremony, the TCCL Friends of the Library Board Would like to thank our judges for all of their careful consideration of each entry in this contestant. We'd also like to thank all of you all for attending our virtual ceremony, with special thanks to Jennifer Latham for her wonderful keynote talk. And most of all, thank you to all of the many writers who entered this year's annual contest. We are very much looking forward to next year's competition. And thank you all for attending today, and have a wonderful weekend.
Let's hear it for all of our winners one more time. Thank you and congratulations, everyone.